This is the big one. This is the one of the best games every single year. We got the Red River Showdown, as it's now called. We have number 12 Oklahoma against number 3 Texas. The Longhorns are 6.5-point favorites and an over/under of 60.5 points. They, of course, play this in a neutral site, Dallas, at the Cotton Bowl. Texas leads the all-time series 63-50-5, but Oklahoma's won 4 of the last 5. This game kicks off at noon Eastern on ABC. And if we're talking motivation, just in case there was a lack of it in one of college football's best rivalries, is definitely Oklahoma trying to revenge that 49-0 embarrassment from last year, their worst ever loss in the rivalry's history. Over 100 years, they just got their doors blown off. We all watched it last year. I think that was surprising. That was before we knew Oklahoma was not great. But even so, it was still shocking, I think, to everybody watching. I think we're going to learn a lot about Oklahoma's run defense in this game. They haven't given up an 80-yard rusher this season, and they're third in EPA per rush. But they go against the Texas run game, which is extremely, extremely explosive. It's unlike anything that they've gone against this year. Jonathan Brooks has 3 straight 100-yard rushing games, including going for 218 last week. Texas' rushing game is more explosive than efficient, but explosive plays were the name of the game last year. So can Oklahoma bottle that up? If they can't, we may be in for another track meet, and I don't know that it's going to go the Sooners' way. They need to be able to slow us down, cap the explosives for Texas, and that's how they're going to keep it within reason here. Dillon Gabriel has been very good, but he struggles significantly against pressure. And I always hate when you're watching a game and they say the keys to the game, get pressure on the quarterback. Well, of course, or the famous, pressure Tom Brady with 4. Well, great. If we could all do that, that'd be great. But it really is a stark difference with Dillon Gabriel. He has just a 54% adjusted completion rate that accounts for drops and throwaways, 3 turnover-worthy plays, and 2 picks while pressured. He has just 1 throwaway on 27 attempts. So what that tells you is that he's not just getting rid of it. Instead, he's looking downfield. He has a 15.5 average depth of target, which is the second highest in the Big 12. So when he's feeling pressure, he's like, okay, somebody down there, just go get it, and just fires it, and it's not a high success rate on plays there. On the defense here for Texas, Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy have been very good at defeating blocks and getting after the quarterback. The interior offensive line for Oklahoma is pretty sound, but teams have gotten pressures, sending stunts and blitzing off the edge and isolating their running backs in a pass pro. And those running backs have not been doing a very good job. 22.2% of pressure on Oklahoma has come from non-offensive linemen so far this year, and not Dillon Gabriel himself as well. When Alabama couldn't throw the ball downfield on Texas, the defense thrived, and it really bottled up that offense. So if Oklahoma isn't able to get those explosives and match Texas's explosives, we may be in for, well, let's just say 6.5 may not be quite enough.
You got me primed and ready here, Brett. This is the game of the week. It's possibly the game of the year. With a watchability score of 9.8 out of 10, the Red River Shootout is my number 2 game on my list of best regular season games, behind only Penn State at Ohio State in Week 8. This has the makings of a great one. Before I dive into the predictive elements, though, which is what we need to look at to pick the game, of course, I want to take a quick look at the resumes. I said we're in October. These resumes have taken shape, and these 2 teams in particular have really good resumes. Texas is my number 1 team in the most deserving rankings. Thanks largely to the win in Tuscaloosa, there's only a 9% chance that the average top 25 team would be 5-0 against the Longhorn schedule. That's best in the nation. Furthermore, Texas has outscored its opponents by 11.1 points per game more than would be expected of the average top 25 team against the Longhorn schedule. That's 6th best in the country. All told, Texas has 1.1 more wins than projected through 5 weeks. On the other side, the Sooners are number 7 in my most deserving rankings. Oklahoma's outscoring its opponents by 18.4 points per game more than would be expected of the average top 25 team against that Sooner schedule. That's best in the country. And while it is fair to question the schedule difficulty that Oklahoma has faced to this point, there is still just a 50% chance that the average top 25 team would be 5-0 against the Sooner schedule. So all of that's the resumes. That's good context to see what these teams have done to this point. But for looking forward, Brett, my model has it Oklahoma minus 1.5. It's a 55% win expectancy for the Sooners. I don't know, man. I honestly don't know how I feel about it.
Well, let's talk about that really quick, because Oklahoma has really, really been favored in not just your model, but a lot of models. Like a lot of the respective models I see, Oklahoma's just shot up the list.
They have, and I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. Like in my gut, I'm kind of thinking I think Texas is the better team, but hey, I have the model for a reason. It's to try to filter out these biases. It's to try to, look at it objectively through just the data. I'm telling you what the numbers say right now. They say Oklahoma -1.5. It's 55% win expectancy, like I said. Brett, you said they've shot up the ratings for me and for a lot of others. No team has been upgraded by my model more during the season than Oklahoma. The Sooners are up 9.9 points compared to the preseason. They've risen from number 14 in the preseason to now a season-best number 2 in my power ratings. They're the number 2 power-rated team for me. Makes me a little nervous, but man, this team's looked really good. I mean, as expected, the offense has been terrific. They've risen from number 9 to number 5. That's the best in the Big 12. But it's the defense that's been even more impressive, especially relative to expectations. They've risen from number 40 in the preseason to number 15 currently. That's second best in the Big 12 behind, you guessed it, the Texas Longhorns. Other than this game, my numbers favor Oklahoma by at least 17 points. In each of their remaining regular season contests. They are going to be massive favorites every single regular season game after this one, and it's really not going to be that close. Hey, it's college football. We see upsets every single week. I'm not saying Oklahoma is going to be immune to one of those, but they are going to be a big favorite in every other game this year after this Red River Shootout. For Texas, I'm already a believer here. The model has been in agreement with this. The model's believed it really for more than a year, but this is the week that 100%, beyond doubt, we can cement the notion that, quote, Texas is back if the Longhorns get the win. I have Texas power rated number 6 nationally. It's right where I had them to start the preseason. Similar to Oklahoma, this offense has been as good as expected. They rank number 8 nationally. That's second best in the Big 12. Also similar to the Sooners, the Longhorns defense has been the side that's been even better than projected. They came into the year number 16. Now they're number 4. That's number 1 in the Big 12. So you've got, number 1, number 2 offensive, defensive unit ranks across the board here. Other than this game, my numbers make Texas a favorite of at least 11 points in every remaining regular season game. The Sooners have a little bit tougher of a schedule in conference play the Longhorns have a little bit tougher of a schedule in conference play than the Sooners do. Most notably, Texas has to play Kansas State. Oklahoma does not. That's my number 3 power-rated team in the Big 12. Bottom line, Brett, I know that was a lot because this game is huge. I have Oklahoma -1.5. It's a 45% chance that Texas holds on to that number 1 most deserving ranking. But like I said, my gut tells me that Texas might be the better team here. We'll see. I expect it to be a really good game. The model's saying Oklahoma, so that's what we're rolling with. All else equal here, Brett. How does this game affect the projected conference standings and the chances to make it to Arlington? Currently, Oklahoma has an 82% chance to make it to that game. That's number 1 in the conference. If they win this, it jumps to a 94% chance. Like, just Sharpie them in. Like, Oklahoma's going to make it to Arlington if they win this game. I'm pretty darn confident in that. With a loss, Oklahoma actually still has the second best chance to make it to Arlington. Again, it's because their projected strength and the projected relative ease of their schedule compared to some of the other contenders. It's a 67% chance for Oklahoma to make it to that game if they lose it here. Texas, right now they're at 69%. That's second best in the country. With a win, it jumps up to 87%. So again, almost 9 out of 10, almost a virtual lock. With a loss, Texas does stay second, but it's much closer. They drop to a 56% chance to make it, almost a 50-50 proposition. Again, they have a tougher schedule. They got to play Kansas State and some others on there that Oklahoma misses, and then Texas will have, of course, one loss in conference play if they lose this one. So either way, these two teams are going to stay the favorites going into Arlington after this week. But one of them's going to be a shoe-in. The other one's going to have a little bit of work to do and maybe playing from behind just a little bit to make sure they don't get into any tiebreaker situations that wouldn't be favorable to them at the end of the year.
So, look, I just trust more with Texas. I've seen them do it in high-pressure situations already. I haven't really seen Oklahoma do it in a high-pressure situation, but the models, they love the Sooners. My weighted aggregated power ratings have Oklahoma number 2 behind Ohio State by a half point. They're a half point off the number 1. That said, you have to look at their strength of schedule. I think it's a very underrated aspect to handicapping games here. Oklahoma so far, according to FPI, has played the 82nd ranked schedule nationally, and they have the 30th ranked schedule moving forward. Texas, on the other hand, has played the 16th most difficult schedule and have the 15th most difficult left on tap. So I can't get behind the Sooners. I can't get behind them at 7. I can't get behind them at 6.5. This is all Texas for me. That's the only way that I'm betting, but I am being patient because I do not believe that this will hit 7, because I think if it does, there's going to be a lot of resistance for Oklahoma, and it'll probably bounce right back. So I don't think we'll hit that 7. And the thing is if I had a model that I could absolutely blindly bet everything and not be information-based betting and matchup-based betting, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't hear me speaking of the model. That model wouldn't exist. So it's just for reference. That's why I can't get behind the model's rating of the Sooners, and I can't get behind its projection of this game. So using my information of what I've seen and what I trust and strength of schedule, it's Texas or nothing for me. The only official play that I have on this game right now, I went to A.D. Mitchell, Texas wide receiver, over 4.5 receptions. You can find that at plus 144 at FanDuel. It's one of my favorite that I found here on the slate. So the focus goes to Xavier Worthy, who of course is the All-American and the top target on Texas. But A.D. Mitchell actually leads the team in touchdown receptions and has only 3 fewer targets on the season. And if you look at Xavier Worthy's prop for 4.5 receptions, it's very heavily juiced to the over, whereas A.D. Mitchell's is very heavily juiced to the under, despite their target share really kind of being the same. And when you have that focus on the top guy, I always like to look to the second guy to get production, because they just Oklahoma's talented, but they don't have the assets to be able to cover all the guys. And Jordan Whittington, too. You can even look at that when his props do drop. But at the time of recording here, I only saw numbers for Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell. So that's my logic behind that. A.D. Mitchell over 4.5 receptions. And then if we're betting aside here, I would lean Texas or nothing.